You had some involvement with Dr. King. Can you tell us how you met him?
I met Dr. King in Atlanta because he was president of SCLC,
Okay.
and at that time he was assisting his father at the Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Okay.
And of course he would come to the campus and use the library in preparing his messages. And then when I first met him in the library where he was reviewing books and studying, and we got to talking, and we became acquainted, and from then on it began a relationship that existed up until his death. Because following my graduation from Atlanta, from the seminary where I received my degree in divinity,
Okay.
I was sent to Montgomery, Alabama. Now, if you know anything at all about Montgomery, Alabama, you know that that's where Rosa Parks sat on her seat and would not move. That's where King was elected the president of the Montgomery Improvement Association. Mm-hmm. That's where the back of the bus company was broken, and they began to hire blacks, and they began to let blacks ride anywhere they wanted to ride. That was where the state, even they were so mad with Dr. King and with the movement and the success of the movement that Dr. King actually left and went to Atlanta to work, with his father. But they had banned, the NAACP couldn't even function in the state of Alabama during those particular days. They had been banned. So the Montgomery Improvement Association, the organization that was organized by the citizens of Montgomery, because they didn't have an organization to defend them. So they organized a group called the Montgomery Improvement Association, and Dr. King was elected the president.
Okay.
And he served there for a couple years, and then following him, Dr. Ralph Abernathy was elected the president, and then SSC, and then myself, I was elected the president in 1963, working there with the voter registration and voter education drives.
Okay.
Because at that time, I was sent to pastor the first CME church there in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, to sum it all up, I don't know how much time I have, but our emphasis was on voter registration and voter education. In the evenings, we had schools to teach the indigenous persons in the various small communities how to vote, how to fill out the applications, how to test the candidates, those who, excuse me, those who are aspiring for offices. We taught the citizens because they would have to stand in front for themselves. We were only there assisting the local citizens, but they would have to take the forefront and stand and defend themselves. So these voter registration and voter education schools at night were held, and people came from everywhere, and we taught them political structure and strategy and how to get their rights and how to get the right to vote. And we fought with these voting rights officers and agents who would not permit blacks to vote and come up with all kind of excuses. And we had attorneys under SCLC and Dr. King that came to our rescue and went to courts and what have you, along with the NAACP. And we were able to demonstrate, if you recall, in 1960, I think it was in the latter part of 1963, we decided, Mrs. Ophelia Boynton, who had been the president of the NAACP before it was banned from functioning in Alabama, asked us to come to Selma, Alabama, to bring the voting rights drive to voting to Selma, Alabama. That's when we started having our encounter with Jim Clark in Selma, Alabama, and people came when we kicked off this drive, the latter part of 63, 1964. It was planned a march on Montgomery for Voting Rights Act, and it was from Selma to Montgomery. And so we began that march, and people came from all over the United States and even abroad to assist us in it. Dr. King had such a unique relationship with the press that they supported the movement. They kept it in the headlines and in the forefront, and we gained the support and the sympathy of people from all over this country and even abroad. And so the movement began to boomerang. As president of the local organization in Montgomery, Alabama, all of the logistics and planning from Selma to Montgomery, and for the Montgomery Climax March in '65 came under my leadership and the leadership of the Montgomery Improvement Association. And it's just so much I can't tell it all. But you have the first march, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, what they call Bloody Sunday. Then you had the second march under the auspices of the state troopers and what have you, who served and had protected them. But it was 80 highway. It was 50 miles on Highway 80 from Selma to Montgomery. And that was the distance that the march proceeded from Selma to Montgomery, 50 miles. And just to sum it all up, the activities from 1962 to 1966 brought for us, for the minorities and blacks of America, during that time, like I said, there's so much. John Kennedy was killed. Johnson was elected president. Johnson tried to carry out John Kennedy's program that he had. And so we got support from Johnson as well as support from John Kennedy before he was killed. And those persons of every walk of life, from the youngest to the oldest, who marched from Selma to Montgomery, wrote with their marching feet. They wrote the Public Accommodations Bill of 1964, which permitted all of the hotels to be open. We couldn't go in hotels before 1964. You could not sleep in a hotel. You could not go in a restaurant and eat. You could not go in a restroom or at a gas station along the highway. That's how bad it was. But those marching feet from Selma to Montgomery and Bloody Sunday and the march on the Edmund Pettus Bridge wrote for us the Voting Rights Act of 1964. I'm sorry, the Public Accommodations Bill of 1964, which opened all of the eating facilities and hotels. But 1965 came the Voting Rights Act, which gave us the right to vote and not be discriminated against. And those are two of the greatest pieces of legislatures that I think has been written to benefit blacks and minorities, not only in cities and states, but throughout these continental United States.
How do you feel? Oh, you want to give him a hand again? Because that was, okay. It is really an honor to be sitting next to someone that put such a mark